Well, good afternoon. I'm Westchester County Executive George Latimer, and I'm very pleased to be here with Chairman Ben Boykin and members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, both on the dais and also here in the audience. Everyone will be introduced so you know who we're joined by, and Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins for an historic bill signing. We're aware that this is the beginning of the 7th week of our new term of office, and on the 2nd day of our term of office, I signed an executive order that banned gun shows on county property, primarily the Westchester County Center, but any county facility. And in so doing at the time, I talked about the common feeling that we all have that the gun show was not the type of program that we wanted to have in a government-owned facility. Our ban did not affect what might happen in the private sector, but it did represent the fact that we envision the county center being the home for family-friendly types of activities. And in the period of time since we signed that executive order, we have secured a contract with the New York Liberty, the WNBA team, that will make the county center their home. We've worked to try to host, continue to host basketball tournaments through Section 1. So we have shown a direction and an interest in family-friendly entertainment, even at the same time that we indicated our policy on this gun show was to ban it. It was something that we have all talked about. We've all been on the ballot in the last few months, and all spoke to this effect. So we put an executive order in, and that banned it functionally for the term of my tenure as a county executive, which may last as long as 4 years and maybe less. But to protect for the long-term future, the only intelligent way was to turn to the people's body, which is the Board of Legislators, and to have them have a debate and a discussion about making something law. And that law has to be debated, has to be public processed through the Board of Legislators, and then ultimately, if passed by the Board of Legislators, I have the opportunity as the executive to sign that into law. And then that makes the policy survive the tenure of any individual county executive, or for that matter, any individual legislator. To overturn it, you would need to have a future Board of Legislators and a future county executive, and you need to go through a public process rather than just the whim of whoever might be county executive of the moment. So with that thought in mind, I turn to my colleagues on the Board of Legislators with the executive order. They have already shown in the past term that this was an important issue to them, and they had passed legislation previously. But the leadership to do that comes from the members of the Board of Legislators, because this county is not run just by a county executive. It is run by the 17 members of this Board of Legislators who represent the people all throughout this county. So I'd like to next turn the podium over to Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, who previously was a member of the Board of Legislators that voted for this the last time, and he, as I, have both served as past chairman of the Board of Legislators for Deputy County Executive Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Today is really a special day for me specifically. I introduced this legislation back in 2010 when then County Executive Rob Astorino reinstated the gun shows after their ban, after County Executive Andy Spano, stopped them from being in the county center after the tragedy at Columbine. And quite frankly, there wasn't a reason that we saw that it needed to come back. But in that gun show, there was anti-Semitic material. There was things that were symbols of racism at that time in 2010. And I advanced that piece of legislation back in 2010 and introduced it every year that we had to do that. And in 2016, there was another gun show that was going to come to the county center. Chairman Mike Kaplowitz and Mary Jane Shimsky realized that we did have a piece of legislation that was already there. And together, our Democratic majority, all my former colleagues that are here behind me right now, voted for that piece of legislation to move forward, to stop gun shows in the county center, to stop anti-Semitic material, to stop symbols of hate with racist, and quite frankly, there was also some date rape things that were happening in that county show that were abhorrent and that was no one should have had. So it is really a pleasure that first, on the 2nd day that County Executive George Latimer was in office, put in an executive order banning gun shows at the county center, and then followed up by my former colleagues on the Board of Legislators so quickly in making sure that our county center, that symbol of family and healthy and wholesome entertainment was going to be the case. So for me, it is a pleasure to be up here today watching County Executive Latimer sign it after my colleagues voted for that and made sure that that happened. So with that, I will introduce the chairman of the Board of Legislators, the Honorable Ben Boykin. Ben.
Thank you, Deputy County Executive. And to the County Executive, this really is a historic day. And just as a little history, the bill that Ken talked about was introduced January 9th and was passed January 9th, 2017, but we never had by a vote of 9-8, we never had the votes to override that veto, so it died at the end of session. With the election last November, the people of Westchester said, we want to go in a different direction. So the second day in office, County Executive Latimer signed the executive order. And we at the county board on February 5th codified that into law that is being signed today. So no future county executive, whether it be female or male, can overturn that. It would have to go now through the legislative process. So we hopefully have put this in perpetuity at the County of Westchester. So I'm so pleased that we're all here today to witness this historic signing of this bill, which bans gun shows on county-owned property and I think other property that is controlled by the county also. So this is a historic moment for the people of Westchester County. Thank you.
Now we have a number of county legislators who are going to speak to the signing of the bill. Let me recognize that in the audience we have with us County Legislator Damon Marr, who represents New Rochelle, East Chester, and Tuckahoe. County Legislator Lyndon Williams, who represents the city of Mount Vernon. Legislator and Vice Chair of the Board, Alfreda Williams, who represents Greenburgh, part of White Plains and some of the villages of Greenburgh. Legislator Mary Jane Shimsky, who also represents the town of Greenburgh and some of the villages in Greenburgh. Legislator Kitley Koval, who represents Bedford and some of the towns in the northeastern quadrant of Westchester County. And am I missing any other county legislators who are with us? Oh, Nancy Barr from the 6th District, who represents Rybrook, Portchester, and a portion of Harrison. And then the legislators who are with us here are each going to speak to this. I don't know which order we have, but Virginia Perez, legislator from Yonkers, who has a personal story of interacting with tragedy from gun violence. Virginia.
Thank you. Well, it is a very special and emotional day for me, especially. When it comes to the topic of gun violence, I know firsthand the pain that comes with losing a loved ones when it comes to guns and all kinds of things that are happening out there in our streets. Although I lost my brother due to someone or particular group of people trying to rob him using an illegal gun that was brought into our state, into our county, into our city of Yonkers. Still, the passage of this bill means a lot because we don't want to promote a culture of guns and weapons and ammunition and things of that nature. We need to be able to wield it back, actually stop it as much as possible. We want to promote family venues, things that bring our communities together, things that help us create some form of a safe community, that help us teach our children that you don't resolve your conflicts with violence. I mean, you're hearing it on the news all the time. Just a couple of days ago, a high school of New Rochelle, kids are stabbing one another. I mean, violence is not the answer. It is not the answer, and hopefully we are providing a positive message to our children by moving this back. Even though the things that are being showcased or put up for sale at a gun show are being done in a legal form, still we don't want to promote that culture. We don't want to steer our children that direction. So this is something that we hope can bring positive change in our community. This is just a start, and I hope that we're doing our residents, our community, and I hope I'm doing my family proud by supporting something so important and so close to home for us. So I'm very happy, obviously, to support this. Thank you.
Next speaker is Legislator Catherine Borgia, who represents Ossining, Croton, Cortland, Peekskill, I think. And she's currently chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. She's the immediate past majority leader of the legislature. Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. County Executive. This is an exciting day. I know that my former colleague and now the Deputy County Executive has worked on this legislation for a long time, and it really, I think, reflects, this is the type of legislation that really reflects the values of Westchester County residents. I think even our prior county executive canceled a gun show after there was the violence at Sandy Hook. We know that the Second Amendment protects legal gun ownership. This bill does nothing to abrogate that right, but we do believe that the county should lead by example. The way that the most recent gun show occurred happened sort of in the dead of night when we were busy with our budget process. We think that the public outrage over that show, especially when we saw some of the additional material that was being sold at that show that's already been mentioned, things that were excused as being historical. We think that the Westchester County government, should not have any business in promoting. The Second Amendment does not say that the government is required to sell you weapons. It does not say that the government is required to sell you anti-Semitic, racist, date rape paraphernalia. And we are very happy that this piece of legislation actually reflects the values of Westchester County. And I want to thank not only all my colleagues on the 9th and 8th floor, but all of the people of Westchester County who came out and made their voices heard, who said, this is not who we are, this is not what we want. There's many, many ways to buy guns legally in Westchester County, and that suffices. We do not need to promote gun ownership in our county building. So I congratulate the county executive. I congratulate my friend, Deputy County Executive Jenkins, for his decade of work on this issue. And I'm very pleased to be here and to be witnessing our county executive signing this, our first significant piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Our final speaker is the Majority Leader of the Board of Legislators. She represents, if I don't get this geography right, then I've got a problem. She represents Larchmont, Mamaroneck, Rye, portions of New Rochelle, and Harrison. Catherine Parker.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge two legislators that are not here. We have 10 members of the Democratic Caucus, but there are two more. Legislator Mike Kaplowitz is not here, and Legislator Chris Johnson. But make no mistake, all 12 members of the Democratic Caucus believed wholeheartedly that this is good policy for Westchester County. And all of them expressed an interest in having this passed as legislation right out of the gate. I think it's wonderful that our new county executive obviously feels the same way that the Board of Legislators does, that, again, as a good business policy, kind of common sense policy for Westchester County, we don't need to be in the business of helping to promote guns. We can make another business decision, and I commend you on bringing in New York Liberty, because I think that is a much better use of the Westchester County Center. And also, I'm looking at Legislator Williams, my colleague from Mount Vernon, and just a note again. Last year, when we voted to pass this legislation, it was the same week as the death of Shamoya McKenzie. And that was really something that I think triggered so much emotion for so many people, that we really must do everything in our power, including, again, to ensure that no matter who's in the executive branch, that we are not going to be dependent on those political wins to allow for policy affecting gun legislation at the county center. We are going to take care of this now and throughout all the future administrations. They're going to have a tough time getting rid of this, and I think that's really the important point. We've made very good policy for Westchester County. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So before I sign the document that will make this law, just a couple of points. Let me reemphasize what Legislator Borges said. Our action today governs county-owned property, primarily the Westchester County Center. It is a statement of policy that is now locked into law. It is not a diminution of Second Amendment rights. That is outside of the power and authority of Westchester County government. For those who might disagree with our philosophy, we respect that dialogue. The Board of Legislators had a dialogue. There were individuals that did not vote for this, but that is the small d democratic process. Elections occur. People are elected to office to use their best judgment on issues, and we go forward. And let me indicate that this is the first of what I expect will be many opportunities for me to sit at this table and to sign legislation, some of which was created at the Board of Legislators, some of which came out of a community dialogue that is ahead. Issues that are to come before us yet may have elements of controversy to them, and we want to be, as the Board of Legislators was on this issue, open to dialogue, understanding that there will be disagreements. But let me be crystal clear. We will lead. We will take action. It will be strong and effective action, and we are not afraid to stand behind the things that we believe in. And that is why I'm going to sign this bill into law. Please join me, friends.
Nancy?
I think you guys are supposed to stand around.
Well, the significance is that this is something that the people of Westchester County had been demanding for a long time. And to bring this significant legislation first, to begin there, shows the progressive agenda that we're having for the people of Westchester County. It is the first, but it will not be the last piece of legislation.
Other questions?
But you said that you might face some obstacles going forward. I mean, is there more to this legislation, or is there more meetings to?
Now, this legislation is a completed act. What I suggest is that in future issues, there'll be debates, there'll be some disagreement, and I acknowledge that because there are people who, have different point of view. But I also acknowledge that while we have that public debate and we listen to all voices and they're included in the dialogue, at the end of the process, it is the will of this legislature, 12 members, that this bill be passed, and it is the authority that's given to me by the people of Westchester last November, and the result of that election and the policies that result from that we go forward on.